Right, so day 4, Romford Horror Film Festival. The last day, thank God. It's been great so far, but 2026 Romford Horrific. We have just watched a feature called House on Lidderman. Is it Lidderman Street? Sorry, it's Lidderman Street, isn't it? Yeah. Aye. Always forget things. We are now going to chat to some of the creators of this project. Let's go down the line and make my life a hell of a lot easier and tell us who you are and what you did on the project.
Okay, I'm Jeremy Sladdin. I was producer and co-editor.
My name's Andy Barker. I was the writer-director.
I'm Ash. I don't think my mic's working. I will just project. I am Ash Connaughton and I was the DOP.
Right, so first of all, what was it like seeing the movie up on the big screen today? What was that feeling like for you guys and how was it?
It's always a bit surreal, especially a film made on this budget. It's me personally, I just see all the faults, but it was nice seeing the performances, and it's always surreal.
So we're going to get into some of that in a minute, by the way. I like some of the things you've just said there. But what was the initial idea? What was the main purpose that you wanted with this movie in terms of, was there a theme you wanted to explore? Was there emotions you wanted to put out there? Was it just a scene that you had in your mind and that expanded it into this feature?
Well, it started off as a short story, and when I was looking for a feature film idea, I thought that story was quite contained. It was all one location, minimal characters, very simple to do on a very low budget. So really, when I developed the screenplay, or when I turned it into a screenplay, it was all designed to be as simple and as doable as possible on next to nothing. So that was really the impetus. The story itself, I mean, that sort of comes from. My dad's a bricklayer, so I grew up on building sites, and worked with some blokes like that, and worryingly. And I just wanted to sort of. I thought there was a nice hook there about, because I've worked in some old abandoned places, and it's always pretty creepy. And over the years, I've just thought, this would be a good setup. But really, by design, it's been an exercise in keeping it simple and trying to get something done on as little as possible.
And I want to talk about your cast in a quick second, but first of all, for the other guys on our panel, how did you get involved in this? Were you always going to be on board? How did you get pitched the project? How did you get involved in the film?
So I suppose I'll cover that one first in one word: Twitter. I was basically starting my production company and looking for sort of, as Andy was saying, projects that could be done efficiently on a restricted budget. But what I particularly wanted was sort of something within the horror genre, but not the standard slasher movie. And that was kind of, as Andy's saying, really that's what House on Lidderman Street is. It's a case of, I think we've debated this quite a lot, haven't we? What kind of horror movie it is, and sometimes varying whether it's a horror movie. I mean, I look at it sometimes and say, well, you could pitch it as a twisted love story between Pete, the house, and Lucy. Some weird threesome going on there. But there are many ways to look at it. But it was really that. It was a case of looking for, as Andy's saying, a project we could do efficiently. And it was that story, because as Andy says, there was the original short story which I read, and although that was slightly different to the script in the end, it still had that feeling of sort of something like the 1970s kind of chiller, kind of horrors of the mind, the darkness within ourselves, and that's what I was really looking for.
I refer to it more as like a dread movie as opposed to a horror movie.
I'm Ash Connaughton. I was the DOP, and I, as with the rest of the crew, came on board through Andy, because we'd all known him for a long time. He was looking to put together a team to do this in what was originally going to be 9 days, but was actually 8. So quite a quick shoot, but it was a great team, and Andy brought us all into the fold.
I was going to ask about your shooting time, because obviously big mega budget movies, they've got 2-3 months to make these things, but when you're working at this level, it's about a week, it's 2 weeks at most kind of thing. What kind of creative risks do you then need to take to make sure you get the film in the can when you're working on such a tight time frame?
I don't know about creative risks, just it was all by design. So for instance, I had the one lead actor, Jason Adam, who was with me through the whole shoot, and then I designed it so it was quite episodic, so I could have actors come in and out on different days, and that made it very manageable. I guess the risk is that you're just trying to get you're really bringing people in for the love of it, because you're asking people for their time and their passion without being able to really pay them, if anything. And it's really trying to muscle up or encourage people to have the same enthusiasm as you have for the project, and seeing if you can all pull together as a team and make this film. It doesn't always work, when you're working on this level, when you're not able to sort of pay people, you've got to have a real dedicated team all working together, because sometimes, very often, people can be flaky, and if they drop out, if someone doesn't come in one day, your whole thing can fall apart like a house of cards. So it's that's really the risk. You've got to be. It's all in the design of the logistics of it, and making sure that your script is both doable but also flexible enough to sort of bend to whatever gets thrown at you.
I think so. I mean, one thing that I would say on the creative risks that I think we did take, perhaps unknowingly, was that we thought, well, the house character is all sound, the character of the house, so that was all deferred to post-production, and we didn't have that locked in at the time we went into shooting. So it's one of those things that, as now when it comes together, we had the team of Ben and Tom who put in a tremendous amount of work on the sound and adding the house as a character in sound form. But that was a big part of it. So as Andy's saying, we shot the actors and we shot on location, but then we had this large element that we needed to bring out in post-production, which was, I think in retrospective, if we did this again, we'd probably narrow that down up front.
And in terms of your cast, getting them involved, I don't know if you may be right with people in mind. We at Horrific, at the Romford Horror, we know Lindsay Crane quite well. She was in How to Kill a Monster, she won Best Actress for that, so we love her. Johnny Vavash, we've seen her face. I mean, you can't turn around without seeing Johnny Vavash. So
Mr. UK Horror.
So do you write with these characters in mind, or did you have to go out and find them, and how did you know these guys were all?
Well, most of the cast are from years of making short films. Most of the cast are from what I term as my stock company.
Yeah.
But Johnny and Lindsay are new to me. I met Johnny on a film called Cara. I did a day on that because I know Hayden, the director. So I did a day on that and met Johnny and got on really well with him. So luckily he remembered me when I asked. He was like, "Yeah, sure," And Lindsay, I can't remember how we got Lindsay now. I can't remember what by degrees we got her, but everyone else is from sort of other projects that I've done.
So, as you said before, seeing it up there, you can see all the little problems with the film, see things that you're not quite like, maybe a shot that was a bit too long, sound that wasn't quite right. But I don't like to focus on the negative stuff, I really don't like that. What were you most proud of today when you watch that up on the screen and you see it up on the big screen? What is that one shot that was a little bit tricky, but we nailed it on the day, or line of dialogue? What are you most proud of? And that's for all three of you as well.
I think, for me, the thing that I'm most proud of is that we have a film. I I think that's something to be celebrated and recognised. And we got a film in what, probably just over 12 months, which for working at the sort of level that we do, you know, you hear these projects going on for years to people to get it finished, and you know, I think as you're saying, for whatever you look at and you say, well, there are flaws here and things like that, I think, you know, looking at it overall, it's the story that I expected we were going to tell, and it tells it in a way that is befitting of the script, through the performances, through what Andy and Ant and everybody did. And I think, you know, certainly, you know, as an independent producer, you know, it delivers everything that I want, and I hope it delivers everything that the audience want as well, or perhaps surprises them, you know, delivers something a little bit different that they weren't expecting.
I was just proud of the performances and seeing all the hard work that everyone put into it all, you know, all together. It wasn't the easiest of shoots, but it was made easy by a great crew and cast, and just some of those performances, I think, really, particularly Jason, he's so subtle and nasty that I get joy out of watching his horribleness every time I see it.
Yeah, just to echo what Andy said, really, you know, the team coming together under challenging circumstances to make it in a very short amount of time, you know, some fantastic performances from our wonderful cast, and all the crew just brought their A game.
So if you could go back to the start of this shoot and tell yourself one thing that's going to get you through it, that you've learned through the process, what would it be?
The resilience of trying to get something done on, you know, nothing really. Just trying to, you know, keeping in that zone. I don't really know how to answer that, to be honest.
I think you set out and made it as efficient and manageable by design as possible, and I think that was ultimately the right choice. Because had it been anything else, I don't think it would have worked.
I don't think
So
it would have finished.
no, exactly. So I think telling you, staying true to your guns, I think.
I think the other thing is probably to say post-production is hard. you kind of forget how hard post-production is going to be, because you know, everybody's gone through, they've done, you know, some really hard work getting the footage in the can, and then you have to, as everybody says, you effectively have to start fresh and make the film again, and then you come back and you see things, and you can have those moments of self-doubt, what you didn't get, what you thought you wanted to get, and it's a case of then, as Andy was saying, the resilience to power through and go, yes, you know, let's embrace what we've got, celebrate what we've got, and let's get to the end, let's get the film completed.
With that in mind, was there anything that you shot that you ended up having to cut that you really wish stayed in?
Not really. It's pretty much all there. It's as tight as can be. I designed it to be an hour and 20 minutes, and it is. You know, it's pretty much as scripted, to be honest.
I'd read on our film Freeway, you had a little synopsis about the director's statement that you'd been doing shorts and then you took a 15-year break, a feature, sorry, and then you took like a 15-year break, and then you've come back to features. Why was that?
Because features are a nightmare to make. My first one, I had a lot of problems with that, and well, it's a long story. It's the age-old story of low-budget independent films. The financier didn't like what we did and wanted to shelve it effectively, and I had to fight that for a long time, and I walked away from it for a long time, and it took a long time to sort of sort itself out. And then I sort of just stopped making films for a long time. I started to write novels, and I slowly came back to making short films, and then I started making a lot of DIY shorts, as I call beg, borrow and steal films. And I got to a point where I thought, well, I either carry on in this fashion, or I either stop, or because I couldn't really carry on doing it like that, because you're asking for people's its time, and I'm always very conscious of that. So I either stop or I just bite the bullet and pull in every favour possible and try and get the film made. And I just thought there was enough in that screenplay, or that short story, should I say, that made it, you know, makeable on very little. So I went for it.
Well, I'm glad you did, because you submitted us to us and we got to show it, and I'm really glad that you have. And would you say you've now got that creative passion back, that fire back to carry on going through features? And also to the other guys on the panel, what does fuel your passion when it comes to filmmaking?
Okay. I'll go first. I think in terms of fueling for me, I just really love the whole idea of cinema and film, from both sides, from watching films and also from the input side, going through it and making it. And certainly, you know, I think, like Andy, you know, I've been sort of making films on and off for many years, and you know, the house on Lidderman Street was kind of getting to a point where we said, okay, let's do this seriously. It might be one last time, or it might be the start of something further. It's literally the start of something further, because as you sort of mentioned earlier about writing for particular people, sort of last year shooting another movie with Lindsay Crane, Crybaby, did write that specifically for Lindsay. You know, it's your everyday, you know, ancient rites, killer doll, revenge story, but more of a horror comedy. But for me, that's kind of, you know, as you're saying, what drives you. It's the filmmaking process, the different genres, the different stories you can tell, and then, you know, putting it together, taking it to an audience, and seeing what the audience think.
I'm not eager to jump back in to directing,
Okay.
to be honest. There's a lot of the sort of the screenwriting side of things is really moving now. So I think sort of going down that route for a while until I couldn't do it on this level again.
Right.
It's just too hard. So I'd need, you know, I'd need some more resources and some more backing to think about doing it again, and get paid would be nice. So until any of those mythical things happen, I'll probably be just writing for a while.
I think for me, it's always been a love of storytelling, and trying to create a world which the audience can kind of dip into and inhabit and enjoy, and hopefully take something from when they've finished watching whatever it is. I'm in talks for a number of projects later this year, including a feature. I've just done a TV pilot. So yeah, there's stuff always happening.
Ash is always working. constantly on set, that guy.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it is.
Do we have any questions? We still have a few people here. Do we have any questions that no mic, so you will have to throw your voice? Yep, I see one.
Yeah, probably more of a technical question to Ash, because the house obviously looked quite small and tight because the street was on.
Because it was.
Yeah, it was. But you managed to, especially internally, managed to make it look very wide and sort of fill those spaces quite nicely to give it that haunting sort of quality that I was getting from it anyway. How did you achieve that?
Well, firstly, thank you for the kind words. It was a tricky space to film in because it was a small house. So I'm glad you felt a sense of scale with it, because we wanted, from the off, we wanted that sort of sense of an imposing presence in the house throughout. And obviously there were no like practical creature effects. There wasn't any VFX to create a monster or anything. It was all done through that sort of sense of there being something. So that sense of scale and that feeling of imposition was very important. And one of the tricks we had up our sleeve was an old 17mm vintage Canon FD lens. So that's got a little bit of barrel distortion. The edges go very, very soft. And there's a number of shots in the film that we use that lens to help try and create that scale that didn't really exist in the space. So yeah, that was one of the methods we used. Others was just working through the blocking and trying to be really clever with how and where we positioned and moved characters. And Andy was brilliant with that, with the actors, of sort of working out the best way to get people around the space and make the best use of it. And I think it's a case of working with what you've got and trying to make the best out of perhaps not the most ideal situation, being a tight house, but thank you. I hope that answers the question.
It does. And just want to say congratulations. I know how hard it is to make a feature film, so you should at least volunteer.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate that. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I saw a hand go up and then go back down. Oh, it's up. Go.
It's not really a question, it's more just tell you something that I really enjoyed. You did this shot where main characters his 45-minute journey, essentially, the fields and then through the graveyard and alleyways and that. And on his way back, you did the same journey, but in this really short, sharp, with the sound on point. I really love that. I was kind of hoping there'd be more of that. And I think when you did the things with him and whoever was in the room, and the kind of flashback, not flashback, but the shots moving intermittently between the characters and getting past that was kind of reminiscent of that style that you did earlier. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so I'm going to end this with if money was not an object and you had all the money in the world, the budget was absolutely fantastic, is there a project that all three of you have in mind you would love to do?
Money was no object. Yes, I wrote a novel over a decade ago called The Electric, which is a very, Kingley, early Spielberg, Ray Bradbury type thing set in the 80s, about a group of kids that stumble upon an old abandoned cinema that shows movies made by ghosts. And I'd love to make that.
I want you to make that.
Yeah. And there's films within the
Oh,
book
man.
that I've created, so I could have I could create my own films, different genres, with actors that never would have existed together. So I've got a comedy with John Belushi and Harold Lloyd, and I've got a Bogart film that I've created, and just had loads of fun with that. But really, there's a coming of age story running through that as well. That's the one for me.
And it's a bit of a love letter to cinema, really.
It's a
isn't
big
it, that
love
film?
letter to cinema, yeah.
So my answer would half jokingly be that project with Andy.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that.
It would cost a fortune, and the licensing would be impossible, but yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, be Ready Player One levels of licensing.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And yourself?
Yeah, I think I can be slightly cheeky here. I've got a number of sort of projects on my pile, and I'd probably try and split them on 3 ways, as a producer always would. Got an animation project, which is kind of kiddie horror, a creature feature, which would be practical effects, and then finally rounding it out, a sort of a summer blockbustery style movie set in a fairy tale world. So if I got as much money as possible, I'd definitely try and split it 3 ways.
That is very producery of you. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for submitting House on Lidderman Street to us, and thank you for letting us show it up on the big screen today. But most of all,
Thank you for sharing.
thank you for being
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Can we get a round of applause?